Welcome back to the Art and Yoga and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kira Whitaker. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about the 3 areas in your health and wellness that you cannot live without. And what I mean by that is quite literally, you could not live. So we're going to strip it down. We're going to get back to the basics. We're going to simplify health and wellness and find a conversation to where you feel encouraged, you feel like you can get that jump start that maybe you need, and it's just going to be simple. Maybe not easy, but it's definitely going to be simple. So head on over to today's video and we'll talk about my 3 areas of your health and wellness that you cannot live without. Welcome back to the Art and Yoga and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kira Whitaker. So I am back. The last couple of episodes I batched before we went to Arizona for spring break. And before that, I was home quite a bit because, as you guys heard on previous episodes, my family had the bubonic plague / stomach bug. So I'm back. I have been back in the studio this week seeing my clients, and it just feels good to kind of be back to normal. And yeah, so I've wanted to do this topic for a little bit, and it's a topic that that we've talked about before. We've mentioned, I've done specific podcasts in this area, but it just felt like a good time to do it. One, because I've had a couple of conversations in the past month where I've really dove into this specifically. And it's also something that's felt really applicable for me in my personal life, in my health and wellness routine, because my routine got completely obliterated because of all of the different illnesses and kids being out of school and then travel. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is how to simplify, how to strip down your wellness routine, whether it be you're new, so you're starting out, you're embarking on a health and wellness journey for the first time. Maybe what used to work for you in your health and wellness routine is just no longer clicking. Maybe it's just not working for you anymore. Maybe you're just tired of your regular routine and you want to figure out what you could add in or take away. Maybe you have been really, really involved and consistent with your health and wellness routine for a long time, but it's gotten complicated because you've consistently added, and now it's the wild, wild west. And you're like, why am I even doing a 27-step routine in the morning? I don't know. So I'm going to give you a couple of areas to look at to, 1, strip it down, 2, simplify it, and also create a tool as just a tried and true system for when you do find yourself in maybe in one of these seasons, you can go to this as an easy little checklist so that you don't start to spiral in the confusion and the overwhelm and the decision paralysis that sometimes occurs in health and wellness, because it's such a just mass kind of polluted conversation and industry and service space now. I think that this could help you. So a couple of the conversations, just so you know where my headspace is and wanting to talk about this, a couple of the conversations that I've had recently where I've talked about this and it's come up have been over Easter weekend. We had a couple of our friends over, and one of my friends was asking me my thoughts on a grounding mat. So one of the mats that mimics or gives some of the same health and wellness benefits of earthing, of grounding. So getting barefoot and getting in contact with the earth, with the soil, with the grass. And honestly, I haven't looked into them because I don't have one. But I think it probably just mimics the radio frequencies that come out of the earth and those benefits. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Do your own research. And she is really focuses on her health and wellness. It was just in conversation, kind of, hey, I saw this. What are your thoughts on it? And so I told her, I said, I just personally, immediately, I kind of go to, well, why wouldn't I just get barefoot and go outside? At what point or what scenario or what situation am I finding myself to where I don't have access to the ground? And she was like, yeah, that's kind of a good point. And that was one of those moments where I went, why are we complicating this? Even if you live in, let's say, an apartment complex and don't have a yard, I guarantee there's probably about 2 to 3 feet in between a sidewalk and a curb in a parking lot that's got grass, or there's public parks, or there's, and so it just, that led to a conversation for her and I of going, I think this is where we have to remember that the health and wellness industry is a for-profit industry, just like anything else. And you don't have a customer if you don't have things to sell. So let's strip it down, because that's just one more gadget sometimes that feels really, really overwhelming. The other conversation that I found myself in, and this is where I really, really put together this conversation and this list, was a few months ago, I was asked to speak at the Middle Tennessee Lawyers Association for Women. They were having a panel after the new year that focused on health and wellness and how these high-performing, brilliant, busy, service-hearted women, how could we support them in taking care of themselves? It's that idea of you got to put your own oxygen mask on in the plane before you can put it on your family, or those around you. And so one of the questions that I got was tips for embarking or keeping up with or, maintaining a focus on your health and wellness. And anytime I get asked that when I'm speaking to a group or a panel, or it's just, I'm giving health and wellness tips and it's really generalized, sometimes that's difficult for me because I love the one-on-one experience. I love the one-on-one relationship with clients that I have, because it is so specific to their individual needs. That's why I love yoga therapy so much. And so I had to kind of go, okay, I don't know age. All I know is that these are females, but I don't know their personal life. I don't know their history and physical. I have not seen any of their labs. So I need to make this really, really general and non-specific. And so what I came up with was, okay, if we're looking at health and wellness, what are areas that you cannot live without? And not to be dramatic, not to use any, fear mongering, but like literally, what are some areas like you would die if you did not maintain this? Like you have to have these. These are the non-negotiables. And the reason I wanted to pick those is because that felt like a really good foundation. That felt like somewhere everyone can start, regardless of age, regardless of sex, regardless of occupation. If you look at these areas, that's going to help support other areas, and then you can build on those. Or if you want to work kind of in the reverse viewpoint, if your health and wellness routine has gotten really, really convoluted and really complicated, you can always go back to these. So these are going to be the basics. So the 3 areas for you to look at in your health and wellness to drastically just simplify it and take it back to the basics are going to be food and water, sleep, and breath. And those are 3 things that you can't live without. You cannot, maybe for a minute, but you can't. Okay. Not for very long. So I'm not going to go through and nitpick the how long can you live without food and water. The reason for that is you're going to get different numbers wherever you look. If you look on survival websites and research and data, you're going to get one thing. If you look on the National Palliative Care and Hospice websites and their research, it's something different. And honestly, that's not really going to be that helpful for this conversation. However, we know that humans cannot survive without food and water. Okay. So if you're going, I just need I need a place to start. Let's look at hydration. Are you drinking water? Are you drinking good quality, clean water? Or are you consistently pounding caffeine all day, carbonated, sugary drinks, alcohol? Let's look at water. Could we maybe take away some of those drinks that aren't going to be as helpful for our body? And can we replace it with something we know we can't survive without? Okay. Same thing with food quality. And so before you're going, okay, do I need to be keto? Do I need to be paleo? Do I need to be pescatarian? Do I want to go vegan? Do I want to do the line diet? Before you go down that route, let's just look at what you're eating. If you could just supplement and switch out a lot of the overly processed food for food that was made by God and not man, food that is going to rot and go bad in your fridge, that's a good place to start. Okay. And then from there, you can experiment. And then we can do more elimination diets. And I do want to say, I'm not talking about frozen or canned vegetables because I love keeping those in our house. And they're also very cost effective. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Cheez-Its. I'm talking about the packaged stuff. I'm talking about the crackers. I'm talking about the chips. I'm talking about the microwavable foods. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So let's look at what we're eating and drinking and just simplify it, okay? Because we know we can't live without that. Before you start asking me about supplements and if you need to take this green powder and if you need to, I'm going to say, are you eating garbage? Because you can supplement all day long, but that's just meant to fill the gaps. That's not meant to sustain you, okay? The next thing is sleep. Sleep is so important. It is so important. I have an entire course in our membership that just talks about sleep, just sleep. Okay. One of the reasons that sleep is so important is because if you go, let's say, I think the numbers are around like 36. And again, these are always changing and you'll find different numbers everywhere. But the fact of the matter is you can't go more than 2 days without sleep, without hallucinating, without your cognitive function and brain function starting to shut down. Okay. Now, let's say you're just not getting good quality sleep. You're not getting consistent sleep. You're not getting into those REM cycles. You're not getting enough sleep. That can increase anxiety. It can increase irritability. We know that it can affect hormone function and nervous system regulation. And these are kind of things that you need to function. Okay. So before we're talking about, do I need to do a sleep mask? Do I need to take my magnesium at this time? Do I need to get, whatever it is, I'm going to say, what if we just looked at the quality of your sleep? And what if we just started to focus on the consistency of your sleep? What if we said, okay, it's more important to get a set amount of hours and to go to bed and wake up at the same time than supplementing or getting the right sound machine? Those can be supportive factors, but let's just go back to focusing on sleep and looking at that. Okay, that's a basic. That's something that everybody needs. I don't care how old you are, if you are a man or a woman, that is something that you cannot live without. You cannot live without sleep. And then the last thing is going to be breath. If you're not breathing, you're not alive. Breath matters. Breath, you can't have a functioning system without the breath, okay? You also can't have a functioning system without quality of breath, okay? So nervous system regulation, input and output with blood flow, blood pressure regulation, red blood cells don't move throughout the body without oxygen. So the breath is so important. Where I kind of focus personally with clients, especially yoga therapy clients with breath work, is stress management, Again, oxygen regulation and function, and then overall body awareness. So breath work can be one of the most powerful tools we have for nervous regulation, stress management, and then also that mind-body component. If you listen to last week's episode or the week before, I did an episode on embodiment and had a deeper conversation about existing and living in your mind, body, and spirit at the same time. And breath work and the breath are the main tool in one of my personal and professional opinions to help people embark on that journey. And so taking it back to the basics, you guys, what can I not live without? You cannot live without breathing. You can't. You cannot. Okay. So those are the 3 areas. If you are feeling overwhelmed, disconnected with your health and wellness routine, bored, and just wanting to know how you could dive in and where to look, I always think it's a good idea to take things away, strip it down, see where you're at, get back to the basics. Then you can figure out what you need to add in for support. But let's look at the foundational pieces first, then look at all of the kind of shiny, I don't know, newer things that maybe you could add in. The last thing I want to say before we close out on this episode is I don't feel like I've done a great job the past couple of episodes of pointing you in a direction of support outside of our conversation. I always want to make sure that if I provoke an idea or provoke a conversation, that I also steer you in a direction to where you can get support that you need to make it actionable. If you're somebody who is stuck in your health and wellness, if you're someone who has never really dove into it and never really made it a cornerstone in your life or focused on those pillars, support is a great idea. I would look into a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. You all know that I really, really harp on the education, the certification, the background of the people that you work with. You don't need to work with someone when it comes to your mindset and your health that does not know what they are talking about or hasn't had extensive education in those areas and their specialty. So if you look on the National Board of Health and Wellness website, there's a directory of everyone who is certified through them. That's my governing board, and they're great. And let me tell you, you have to have a lot of education because I went through it and it's hard and the boards are hard and it's a great place to look. Also, I'm clearly a huge fan of certified yoga therapists. That's another part of the health and wellness team that I think is just invaluable. I am a certified yoga therapist through the International Association of Yoga Therapy. You can look on their website and their directory. And then we have a lot of different ways that we can support you at Arden Yoga and Wellness. I have a laundry list of pre-recorded courses and videos to help support you. The reason that we did this is because 1, I'm only one human and I can only work with so many people. And 2, I wanted to make sure that people had support that was accessible, that you could do anytime, anywhere, regardless of your work schedule, your personal life. And it's also really cost effective. I wanted to make sure that we had free support for you through the podcast and then really, really affordable options that are pre-recorded. And then that highest level of support is working one-on-one with me. So we have therapeutic yoga videos. We do have videos on there to teach you how to access breath work and put it into place. We also have health and wellness courses that are more focused on health coaching. The reason I did these pre-recorded health coaching videos and courses is because a lot of people have the information. They just needed the help putting it together in a format that they could use and that they could be consistent with. So if that's something you're wanting to dive into, we have those for you as well. And then lastly, if you're wanting to work with me one-on-one, I don't have any in-person yoga therapy availability. All of those slots are completely full, and we have a wait list. But I do have a couple of open spots for remote health coaching. So one-on-one health coaching via Zoom. I always do health coaching via Zoom. And then also for yoga therapy via Zoom. And the reason I love doing that so much is it's so accessible, but also I get to work with people from all over, and it's not limited to just Middle Tennessee, because that's the beauty of I think that was one of the good things that came out of COVID, if any, was me downloading the Zoom app and figuring out how to get people online. So we'll put all of these things in the show notes so that you can click through. And if you need any support, you can kind of look around and see what you think might be a good fit. If you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out. We have a question and a contact tab on our website. So until next time, I will see you guys later. And I think that's all for today. See ya.